I disagree with that to a little to a certain degree. Like I grew up in Cleveland. I love the Cleveland Browns. As bad as they are, I love the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, I'm all right with the Indians. But I feel like if I'm ever charged with covering them, I can also separate. It's my job to separate Terrance, the fan, from.
No, I understand.
So
You're
you can
absolutely right. You can do that.
you can do that. I mean, and you should be able to do that. If you can't separate the two, I mean, then yeah, you have a problem. But and understand that being a fan would be a huge disservice. I mean, if you bring your fanship to the table, to your reporting table, then it is a problem. But I mean, I think you can like a team in hell. I'll be honest. I mean, I've covered Notre Dame football. I've covered the Houston Texans, the New Orleans Saints. Now, after a while, you start to like those guys because it's kind of personal. But but at the same time, I'm not. I can separate my liking those guys on a personal level from, hey, if you don't get it done on the field or if you screw up in some meaningful way, I have to deal with that objectively. And I mean, I'm going to do that. So,
Right. You don't want to get to a point where you hate sports.
right.
Because we know people, and I mean, actually, I can talk about one of the sports writers who basically seems like he hated sports. You never want to get to that point. You always, like I said, enjoy what you do. And like you said, you root for plays, you root for players, you root for good columns.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And then you get upset when they fall apart, too. You're like,
Man, I had this.
But kind of like elaborating a little bit on what John says is like if you think you want to be a sports writer because you're a fan of a team or whatever, it has to be more than that. If that's it, you're not gonna make it, or you're just not gonna. And that's not to say, I'm speaking of that in terms of you could maybe, if you're a huge Cleveland Browns fan, you could probably be, and you're smart enough to, I don't know, to carry water. You could certainly write about them objectively, maybe more objectively than a lot of people can. But that can't be it. It won't last for you. You know what I mean? It won't. Like I'm fans of sports. I'm fans of like compelling stories, like the people, like the different textures of it. Like that's why I do it. It's not because of the teams I like, and I still have teams I like and I care about, but I care about them in a much different way than I did before I got into this. It's not like I tell people all the time about this is kind of later, like becoming a sports writer. It's at some point it's kind of like, everybody, I'm going to date myself here a little bit. Anybody seen The Matrix, the movie The Matrix? Anybody? Okay. The red and green pill type thing. At some point that's what it's like, and you can't go backwards. I will never watch sports the way I did before I was a sports writer. It changes the way you watch your teams. It changes the way you interact with your friends too, because they watch games like a fan. I watch games looking for storylines.
Really?
Oh yeah, I can't change it. It doesn't turn off in my head.
I'm a Pirates fan. I hadn't watched a meaningful game since I was 13. I was really into it. I was not looking for storylines.
I can tell you, like I said, maybe it's just me. It changed the way I watch games, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, I enjoy games still. I just enjoy them in a different way.
Jay, I watch games and I go, man, I feel bad for that guy with that game just or, it's quadruple overtime. Boy, what time is that guy getting home tonight?
There seems to be a difference in opinion when it comes to how free-flowing a journalist, sports or not, is with their own personal beliefs or stance regarding a certain issue. So how tight-lipped or free-flowing should a sports journalist really be with personal beliefs, whether it's fandom or even politically?
Well, that's a good question. That's a loaded question. I don't know. I think that I will say, maybe this answers that question, but I will say that it seems to me increasingly in this business, it's more and more opinion driven as far as content. There's so many sources for information on the internet. I mean, I can go a million places to find out what happened in last night's game, and I found that it just seems, and I'm just spitballing here, but it seems to me that opinion-based pieces and personality-driven pieces maybe have more value than ever because it's something different, or it's this person's spin, it's this person's brand. That's a term used in this industry quite a bit. Sometimes frustratingly, branding. But I mean, it's true because I'm going back to baseball. I mean, Tom Verducci is great at what he does. You know, I'm going to go see what Tom Verducci has to say about this issue. You know, I'm going to see what Buster Olney has to say about this. These people are brands, even independent of where they work. So I think there's a lot of that. But I don't know, political beliefs, all that. I think there's still always going to be a line there that you don't want to cross when it comes to getting, too personal. You know, but if there's a topic that plays into it, I don't know, you could be. Maybe things have changed. Maybe it has become more.
Well, the John Greenberg brand is, no, I'm just kidding. I get in trouble sometimes on Twitter because I am like, and as people that follow me will know, a little too free-flowing. I would have gotten in a lot of trouble in college with that. But you do have to watch yourself, man, because sometimes you think no one's reading what you're, like as far as the teams and things like that, and you can say stuff that can get you in trouble, and you might have to do a little apologizing. But you should have a politically. I mean, you don't want to get into that too much because there's no point. Right. I mean, arguing over politics is the biggest waste of time with people of different, of vastly different views. You're never going to get anywhere. But you should have some. I guess in my sense, I have some things I stand for. Like when it comes to like stadium financing, I don't think a city should ever pay for it. Some people could say that's political. But that's something where I believe, and that affects how I write. And when I write a news story, I try to be fair to both sides, but that does influence my writing. So, I mean, you do have to stand for something. And that goes back to what I said before about being well-rounded intellectually and just, what you know about. So you do want to have some beliefs. And I guess that goes with, like, what you believe of pitching, in baseball, what you believe about sabermetrics, what you believe about defensive philosophies in football. Always believe in something.
And I agree with John. I mean, we all come to the table with certain beliefs. And when Lindsay said political, I didn't necessarily think politics. I thought more in terms of, like, as an African American, one of the things that I'm always in tune to, because I recognize it, I live with it every day, is sometimes the lack of diversity, in the workplace. And for sports, a lot of times it's the lack of diversity in coaching. You don't see a lot of black coaches, especially at the college level. You don't see a lot of black coaches even at the NFL, and it's starting to decline a little bit in the NBA and college basketball as well. And I'm not afraid to deal with those issues. I mean, I'm a black man, and I know that a lot of people are going to look at that and say, well, because you're black, you're playing a race issue. No, I'm working on a legitimate story, and I'm not going to be afraid to deal with it because you think one way or you think another way. No, I'm going to deal with it in an objective way. I'm going to tell both sides, but I'm not afraid to deal with the issues, and I think that we all have to be able to deal with the issues, but I shouldn't have to be the only one doing it. You guys as well. I mean, you know what's right, you know what's wrong, and if you feel like it's something that's right or wrong, you deal with it. Don't be afraid of dealing with that. But now in terms of religion and just true politics, I don't know that has any place in what we do as sports writers. Now, if I was a City Hall guy or something like that, maybe I would have some more, some stronger feelings, or maybe some of those politics might come into play. But as long as you deal with them in a journalistic, objective way, I don't really have a huge problem with it.
I think the bigger issue right now, as John was talking about, is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the social media type things that I think a lot of people look at as personal accounts. And the reality is you're still a reporter. That's how people are going to view you. So if you put something up there that people are going to look at, they're going to view that through the prism of what this reporter's biases might be. And Jay, you can tell me, but I know at one point with AP, we had someone that was policing Twitter for us at AP because Mary wouldn't let stuff go up. She would call people up and tell them to take it down. I don't know if we're still doing that or not.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, at the AP, we have pretty explicit policies about what you can post on Twitter and Facebook and all that. And, like, whether you're a political writer, a sports writer, if you work as a secretary at the AP, it's like, don't do it. Just don't do it anywhere, and
we get memos all the time about events that come up like Sandy Hook or any of those kinds of things, and they say, don't put any tweets up about this.
I mean, so, yep, I mean, to answer a little bit of Lynn's question, I mean, you have to be careful. I mean, if, I mean, we know of instances of people where people tweeted something, got in trouble. I'm trying to,
A friend of mine got basically demoted, almost fired.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful in how you present yourself in social media. Like, I have strong political views about things all the time. I have friends, that post stuff, and like I'll start typing and go, can't say that, and I'll just keep moving, and you have to really think before you tweet, think before you post. Even now, where you are right now, like, I mean, many of you, I mean, you guys may be more savvy than a lot of people, but I have friends who think they've got private accounts, and you could just flat Google search them and come up with their Facebook posts and things like that. I mean, you may have friends that you think would never do this to you, and when you're like some big sports writer, they'll flip it to Deadspin, and the stuff you can't imagine, happening to you could happen to you. So you have to be careful, in how you present yourself online.
We had someone in Minneapolis, I think, that got sued by the official. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do, Mike.
And that was something that went up on Twitter because he said, I don't remember what he put up, but it was essentially, that this was a makeup call for something.
That was weird. It was NBA. It was an
Yep.
NBA story.
For my generation, it's kind of hard to imagine a world where social media and online isn't integrated already into the reporting process. So how exactly has your job as a reporter or even your writing process itself changed with the increasing popularity of Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook or websites or like Reddit?
How has it? Night and day. And in baseball beat, like we mentioned, is every day. And, there used to be such a thing as a scoop. There used to be something to having something first. And now if you have something first, you have it for 10 seconds,
Until a source confirms it.
Until a source confirms it elsewhere, yeah. And it made you have to think on the fly a lot more. We used to gather our notes pregame and then go upstairs and try to craft a decent notebook. And now it's things are announced or tweeted or posted as they're happening in many cases, and to the point where even I know the Indians last season or the year before, they had to create a policy of no tweeting while the manager is talking because it got to be obnoxious where it's supposed to be a conversation and everyone's got their head down, tweeting what this guy's saying as he's saying it. This guy's injured or this guy will be out this long. And maybe that's probably a good policy because it does get a little ridiculous. But, so there's no such thing as first anymore. You're first, you're tied for first. And your job is, as if it wasn't immediate enough, it's become extremely immediate. And again, all the more reason to protect yourself and don't tweet anything unless you're absolutely sure. I know I made my mistakes. I'm sure these guys have too with Twitter and maybe putting something before you should have put it. I think we're all learning as we go along, to be honest. But yeah, that's kind of where the industry is now.
I have a very interesting dynamic in Indianapolis because I deal with Jim Irsay. And Jim Irsay is one of the most prolific owners out there that tweets. And he will tweet literally anything from song lyrics to injury updates. And so you've got to try and sort through what is real and what is not. And at one point he tweeted something, this was when Peyton was hurt in 2011 during the preseason, and he tweeted something about he was going down to a corner in Mississippi. And it was a lyric to a song. And the editors that I was dealing with started calling me up on Sunday and said, he's going down to get Brett Favre. And so now I spend the rest of the afternoon trying to chase down Brett Favre rumors. And, so that makes it very complicated. And he's out there, he's gotten in Twitter wars with people, and then you're reporting that. So it complicates things quite a bit.
I use it a lot to, it sounds kind of funny to practice like lines, to practice leads. If I think of something funny, I use it. And if people like it, seriously, I'll put it in my story. It's like I use it a lot as a writing process. That's, I think, the best use of it. 90% of what I write is nonsense and jokes, so I feel I get something out of it. But it's like I know people in Chicago. One guy used to work in Chicago who would literally sit on there all day and lift people's tweets. And what I mean by that is like confirm stories that don't have to do with his beat for no reason. And we've caught him. We knew it. We knew he was doing it. But that's like, there's a weird cult of personality among sports writers because people have seen how much attention they can get nationally. Like someone who might be in one city all of a sudden becomes like a national figure because they see him breaking news or they see what he's writing. And that's become addictive, I think, to a lot of people. And it's definitely something to watch out for. I have friends, we send stuff to each other all the time of like crazy stuff people write. Like, what is wrong with these people? Like, why? Just work on your work on your story. Don't people that try to break stuff on there. Why would you break something on Twitter that's not written for your website or newspaper already? That makes absolutely no sense. I know ESPN has a policy about it.
We do too.
Right, it's crazy. I don't understand why you would do that.
We go for any news. Our rule is we go to the wire first, then Twitter,
Absolutely.
because we don't get paid for Twitter. The AP
Right.
doesn't get paid for Twitter.
Yeah,
The,
just to have
And
something
people are
to
just
link
going to steal it off you anyway.
I was gonna say I come at it from a little bit different perspective. I also work on the national sports desk with AP, so I spend like 3 days a week, and I'll be the night supervisor, the whole country, or whatever. And I love Twitter because I could see what everybody's doing right now. I could see what we don't have, immediately, and I could put people in motion to track it down. And so it's an invaluable tool for that aspect of my job. I've also used it before on several times, like John talked. I write a little bit of sports business too from time to time, and I always find with sports business stories, it's always better if you can localize the top, featureize the top. You know what I mean? Like somebody using a particular tool for sports technology or whatever, or something like that. Okay, and all I have to do is I tweet out what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, let's see, I wrote a story last year about people who are cutting the cord with cable, sports fans who are cutting the cord with cable and just watching events online, using whatever tools there would be. And I said, looking for people who are watching their sports online, cutting the cord with cable. And I call the desk, the national desk AP, I say, can you retweet this out on the AP main account? They say, sure. So then they run out there, and I literally get hundreds of people in a matter of minutes that I look at. And you look down the list, and you have to be careful, obviously. I look down the list, I look for people, who look like they have legitimate accounts. There's not some sort of flaming ball of the icon or something that, if I get unnerved by it, I just keep moving. I find the person, I just send, hey, can you follow me? I send them a direct message. I get them on the phone, run down their particulars, make sure I'm comfortable with this. And I've localized tops through that. I've done it a couple times, and it's always made the story better. Like I can get 3 or 4 or 5 people, the average citizen, doing something that works in my story. So Twitter's a great thing. It's also, yeah, it's a great reporting tool, but it's a very dangerous one too. Like there are stories of reporters who I would encourage you, if you use Twitter as a reporting tool, when you come down to interviews, stuff like that, no emails, no Twitter, get the person on the phone and err on the side of caution. If you don't feel like this is legitimate, if you can't find an online footprint for this person that makes it feel like, you're comfortable with it, just move on. It's not worth it. There are all kinds of people out there that would love to say they duped so-and-so at so-and-so publication. So it's a great reporting tool. You just have to be very careful with it, and you have to err almost on the abundance of caution.
I think Tim Burke probably went over this.
Oh, did he? Yeah, maybe guys. Yeah, no, that's just but I love Twitter. Love Twitter. On it all the time, much to my wife's chagrin.
I
It's great
think we
to
all.
canvas your. Sorry.
I
Mark,
think we all use it to some extent. It's like Jay said. It's like Jay said. You just have to be careful with it, and hopefully you're not
canvas.
quoting
It
song lyrics.
It helps you canvas your. Helps you canvas your readership and what interests people.
Absolutely. That's what
And you can, and you guys know you can track links and what's getting hits, what's
It's good
not.
to self-promote yourself. I mean, seriously, you have
It's
to.
good to brand yourself.
It's good to brand
There's
yourself. The
nothing-
Anthony Castrovince brand is very strong in Cleveland.
And there's nothing worse than sitting there in front of the screen with the blinking thing, and you're thinking, I went to the Scripps School of Journalism for 4 years, so I could sit here and try to come up with a 140-character tweet, and you spend,
Zinger. Is that your Springsteen?
your zinger, yeah. Anything more than a minute, you feel like wasting.
I would also tell you too about Twitter. Know about who you are and what you're comfortable with. I'm not. When I try to be funny, I come off really dumb. So I stick to really just general observations on things. I'll tweet links to my stories. I'm constantly jealous of John. I follow John on Twitter, and I think he's hilarious. He's great. You know, no, I do. In 140 characters, some people work. Some people, it's a medium that really works for them. Like, I'm okay at it. I'm not great at it. Oh, shut up. I'm not great at it. Like I said, I tweet general observations, things like that, because if I start throwing out one-liners like I'm hilarious, it would come off awful. So just know who you are, stick to who you are on that, you know, and just tweet what you're comfortable with and what you think, you know, works for you. Don't try and be like a comedian, or if you're not funny, and don't try and be like some ace football coach if you know, just know, you know what I mean? So, you know, that's another thing about that. I just keep in mind who you are and stick to who you are. And the more genuine the voice, I think the more followers will come to you, I think.